is up? Daniel here with the Virtual Robotics Studio, and we're back to finally assemble the top of our robot with the bottom. So we made our fuel mechanism. Earlier we made the bottom, the intake ramp, essentially. We've got our chassis together with the swerve drive, and actually we wired most of the chassis up. Now, if you haven't done the wiring yet, it's okay. You can build this and attach it first, do the wiring second. We did like the open access, though, when we were wiring. All right, so let's get these things put together. But before we do, we're going to give a special thanks to Argosy. First, Cross the Road Electronics, West Coast Products, Aramco, and Team 302, Lake Orion High School, for hosting our studio. All right, the first thing we're going to attach is the floor, the bottom of our intake here. And to do this, we can use, let me see if I grab all the different bolt sizes we had. All right, I think we can use the 1/2-inch bolts. So it's the same 1032 by 1/2. They're going to go through sort of this tab on here. Then they're going to go through our C channel that we attached on the front of our robot. And I think they're going to be long enough. If not, we'll go up to our 1-inch bolt. Now, we do have a problem because one of the holes is going to attach on the box on the bottom. And so that one, we're going to need to be even longer. You might be able to reach in there and rivet it, although, yeah, I think if we flip the robot upside down, you might be able to get in there and put a rivet instead. But one of our problems is we aren't going to be able to use the middle 2 holes on this tab because that's going to line up on the seam between our top bracket and our bottom bracket here, which means we only get 2 holes attached in. So I would prefer to do bolts on both of them, which means for the bottom hole that's going through box, we're going to need 1.5 inch bolt, which I think was not in the KitBot kit of parts. So I got a couple extra button head 1.5 inch long bolts that we'll use. All right, let's see if we can get ourselves oriented here and stuff attached. So this is going to drop into our opening in the middle. And you should have a little bit of play on this. This is a little bit smaller than 18 inches. That's fine. We're just going to tighten it down and let those tabs bend until they're lined up. And this is going to be basically, if you look at the tabs on the side where the holes are, those holes should be 2 vertical straight lines. So we have 2 holes that are directly up and down, and then 2 more that are directly up and down. That is the angle that this should mount at. So it's not going to be at some weird, you're not going to have like the zigzag shape. It's a straight up and down, I don't know, like the vertical Z piece in Tetris. All right, so that is going to line up, and the hole we're looking for to attach it to is, if we start on the back of our box here, or our channel here, we have 3 rows of holes. We're going to be attaching it to the middle row of holes, not the top. That's why I said we could cut this down to angle and get slightly better access. And if you go from the back, where we have our cross beam here, 1, 2, 3, it should be the 4th hole. That's the one we're looking at. And in fact, what I'm going to do is take a bolt. I'll pass the bolt through that 4th hole, so I can also see that on the other side, because that might not be obvious. And then let's mark this one too. So it's going to be the 4th on this side here. 4th hole there. And then if I pass this through, I'll be able to mark it on the back side here as well, just so I know where we're trying to go. And this is especially important for me because when I'm holding everything together, it's going to be harder for me to see what's going on. All right, so if we drop this in, is this the best way to do it? You know what? I think we're going to be better served if I can get this to rest on its side. Now, can I do that without, you know, things happening? I'm not sure. You know what? Actually, okay, the first bolt, let's do this way. All right, so if we look at the side of this, right, and we hold it so we have those things like I was talking about, vertical, vertical, the topmost hole, that's the one that is going to attach to the hole that we just circled. So I'm going to put one of my bolts through there. And then I'm going to bring it into the robot, try to line it up with the hole. I marked it on the outside here so I can see. All right, I think that's the right hole there. Let's go ahead and get a nut started on that one so it doesn't fall apart on us. pretty good access through that channel. All right, and then let's flip over to the other side here, and we'll try to get the bolt started on the other side, that same bolt started on the other side. Okay. Again, on the inside here, I'm looking for the top hole on that flange, on that bent tab, and let's see if we can push that through. Yep, that's the right one. Looks good, looks good. All right, and get a nut started on that one as well. Okay, now it gets even trickier, unfortunately. So next one is going to be that longer bolt. And this bolt is, so what we're going to do is we're going to basically adjust. You can now tilt the ramp up and down. You're going to tilt it until those holes look vertical. And when those holes look vertical, what you should see is the two center holes should line up on the seam between our two pieces. So like right in here, we had the 4 holes making that Tetris piece shape on the tab. The two center ones will line up on the seam. And then the bottom hole is where we want to attach the other one. So when those are lined up on the seam, the bottom one should line up with a hole on the box. All right, and let's see if we can get that to, there we go, popping through. So that is the right spot. We can kind of like now figure out where that should have gone, right? So where this box is attached, it looks like we are 1, 2, 3. Again, it's the 4th hole in, and it's the middle row. So all we have to remember to attach this piece is 4 in, middle row. Let's get a nut started on that one. And we have so much room here that you really could use any length bolt you want. So if you have some extra of like the 2.5-inch bolts that we used, I think that works. It's just going to be a lot of extra tightening down on the nylock. All right, so that one started. We got to do the same one on the other side now, which we'll see how that goes. It is sort of staying lined up, mostly because it's leaning on the other side. This is, by the way I'm doing this, this is hard to reach into. If you've got some extra people, I would suggest tipping up, because, man, that access, yeah, you can just reach right in there, no problem. But I don't know if I can get it to stay up right now. So I'm going to try to get this one in the hard way here. So I'll reach in. It's going to be that bottom hole. Okay, okay. Got through 2 of the walls. There we go. All right, I am through. So again, I'll double check and make sure. It is 1, 2, 3, 4 in, and then the middle hole down. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let me reach down here and get that one up. Get that one started. Get that one started. There we go. All right. Now, because this has just a little bit more space, right, than the gap that's there, we're going to end up pulling the tabs apart. It means that we're going to have to do a lot of tightening on this. You got to make sure it gets all the way tight because we don't want this to be able to flop up and down. But that is one of the, let me grab a random piece of box that I've got over here. That's one of the things we were looking at with how much we had to cut down this back panel. And the idea was basically, keep turning. All right, the idea was, if this moves, it's going to change the length on the back, right? So this is the point we can't go past. And then there will be maybe another panel that's sticking out a little bit more. So if you are up on the top of the range, you probably could have made this back panel a little bit, or this bottom panel a little bit longer. But if you're down on the bottom, I mean, that's starting to get pretty close to the edge. That's less than 1/2 inch to the edge of the piece. So, all right, let's go ahead and start tightening these things in. And to do that, I'm definitely going to need this tipped up. I have no chance otherwise. So let's tip it up and see if I can get it to, well, I don't want to put it on that. Let me see here. If I can put it on something, then I think I can do this. All right, so I've got a couple more scrap pieces of box that I'm going to try to use here. So if I think if I tip this up and I rest the top frame on that box, that's pretty stable. That's pretty stable. Let's go with it. Okay, and then here is the unfortunate part. You might be able to get this first one to turn with the screwdriver. That's possible. I think if you have a ratchet, that's going to be your best bet. So if I get my socket and ratchet on there, then what I can do is get my Allen wrench on the inside, and we just, you know, go back and forth. Careful not to scrape yourself on the edges of the ramp, but we did do some deburring on that, so that helps some. And this is the one that was too long, right? So we kind of knew this one was going to be a whole thing. We're getting there. All right, that one is starting to get tight. I'm actually going to stop there. I'm not going to tighten it down all the way yet. I'm going to go for the top one now. Same way here. This one is easier to move the ratchet on the back side. And you can do this with a wrench. It's just you have to let go and re-grab constantly. All right, that one's pretty close. All right, now we're going to try to do the other side. So kind of the same plan. And you'll be able to see as you go to this other side, there's a little gap here. It's not even a 1/16 of an inch. It looks like it's a little bit less than a 1/16 of an inch. But as we tighten this, we're going to pull that tab out. And it's just going to bend a little bit, and we'll get it lined up, and it'll be good to go. Okay, we're close. Now we're in the pulling the tab out part. And yeah, my gap is disappearing. And we are... Oh, okay. Well, maybe I can reach the ratchet in from the other side. So turning the Allen wrench now is loosening and tightening because we're getting some extra tension from bending that plate. So we just got to be a little bit careful about how we do this. Try to bring it in till it's flat, flat. That looks pretty good. Let me get the other one started. That one's a little hard to reach. There we go. I'm on it. All right, now all three previous bolts are pretty close to tight. So this one I'm going to tighten as much kind of as I can. And that is now tight, tight. Okay. And the top one's good because we can't really crush the box that's attached to it either because it was a C-channel. So we have two walls directly next to each other. On this one, you have the thick wall box, so you probably will not be able to crush it too much. Mine is that wrong diameter, so I'm going to get it tight but stop. You can go a little bit tighter on yours. And now we can finish up the other side. And take that the rest of the way tight as well. Is there room on this side? Guess there's more room on this side for this one because I'm hitting the wires. All right, that is, I think, about as tight as I can go on my box. And then let's see if we can get this top one. I wonder, it might be, well, I guess it depends on the size of your hand, whether it's easier to go from that side to this side. I think it's easier to go from this side. All right, we're in, and we're cranking. And again, these two top ones, right, you can go for sure until it locks out because, again, it's just two flat sections of metal. All right, that is in and tight. We can tip this back down, which is good because it scares me being up on an angle like that. Okay. That's good. This is going to sort of be pulled up straight like that when all is said and done. And again, we're inside. It's close, but we're inside. You might want to check that too. If you do this and it's hitting, right, and it's like, it's touching, you might need to go ahead and grind or cut a little bit more off of this, or you might look at that dimension when we attach this to the bottom plate. Maybe you were shifted too far out. But we left hopefully enough room that you could be a little sloppy with your manufacturing and everything still fits in there. All right, now we are ready for the rest of the fuel mechanism, right, our intake and launcher. So let's grab that. And remember that the wheel, the orange wheel, is going to be towards the middle of the robot. The side with the two rollers on the bottom are going to be towards the front. And this is going to sit right in between those two big C-channel pieces we have. Something like that, not exactly like that. We got to get it lined up. And let's see here. Rotate a little bit. Let's try to get this side first. We can use the 1/2-inch long bolts for this one for sure. All right, so the first one on the bottom of this, I'll pop it out for a second just so I can point. We got the 4 holes across the bottom here. That front hole is going to line up in the front hole on the C-channel. But again, it's going to be the middle row of holes. So that's what I'm going to try to do here is get a bolt started, one of those 1/2-inch long ones, and line it up with that middle hole, first hole. Hey. Nice. See if we can get a nut started on there. That is just too much of an angle for me to be able to use my handled Allen wrench. All right, and then what I'm going to do is jump to the back hole and see if I can get the back hole to line up and drop in. And I don't know what your best bet is, but you're going to have to reach inside the fuel mechanism, so find where your arm fits. And if you just sort of rotate and hop it, it's going to line up. That was not too bad. Let me see if I can get a nut started on that one as well, because we have some access from this side. Do we? Ooh, that's not easy. That is, oh, I dropped it. So close. All right, unfortunately too, we can't turn the stuff around either because it's hard to get the Allen wrench on this side. It's going to be easier to get the regular wrench on this side later when the time comes. So, all right, I did get that started. We can use my other trick for another one. I'm going to do maybe one more here, and that trick being, right, like if I put the nut against the side and hold it there with my finger, oh, there we go, then I can slide this in until it's lined up with the hole that I'm going to try to put the bolt through. I think it's right about there. And then when I try to put the bolt through, should be able to feel it. Okay, well, I missed by a lot. So you probably, of course, will want to move your head over to where you can actually see what's going on, but, you know, we're gonna get there. All right, so now if the nut is in front of the hole, then you can turn the bolt to get the nut started as well. And also, one of the things I'm doing is I'm sort of rocking the whole mechanism a little bit to help get those bolts lined up. I think what also is going to help us now is if we try the same thing on the other side, try to get that first bolt going on the other side as well. That'll help hold it level. So line it up. Again, middle row, first hole in, and then let's try to get that back one. I don't know where to put my And all right, let's get that back one as well. And line that up and go. That'll help also with getting the other one started. All right, then, since we have the bolts in there, we have the bolts in the front, I think we're ready to start trying to tighten it down. So let's go back to the first side we were working on and get at least one of these bolts or a couple of these bolts tightened down. Now, I don't think we can fit a socket in there. You might be able to get a ball end Allen wrench, which lets you screw in on a slight angle. That might work for you. So that looks like it's working on this one decently well. If you have a wrench with a socket attachment on the end, that is really nice because then you can just kind of do what we're doing with the regular socket, but in a smaller profile. So that works really nicely. I like that. If not, if you got no other options, right, I would put the wrench on, tighten a little bit, rotate the Allen wrench down, and just keep putting the wrench off and on. Because I think the wrench is easier to take in and out than the Allen wrench is. So I think like if you have to do it manually the slow way, this way is probably the least bad choice. All right, and then looks like we're just about all the way tight. So we'll give it one more little tug, and that one's in and set. And now, got to do kind of the same thing for the next one. Now this one's harder. Obviously, I probably should have gone in order so that I could keep getting the socket on it. But let's reach down through the middle. And let's see if we can get the socket at all to work for us here. Yes, but it has to be the right direction. At least these bolts aren't ridiculously too long. We're there, that one's tight. Okay, and then for the back one, it's pretty easy to access with the wrench from the other side of the robot. And then we just got to reach down. From the top. Get it. There we go. Got to get it far enough so that the nylock is biting before the ratchet will do anything for me. Okay, this would be at least twice as easy if you had one person reaching from the front of the robot with the Allen wrench and one person on the back of the robot at the side with the wrench or socket wrench. Because I'm on my tippy toes and I can barely reach inside. And it's cutting off the blood flow to my arm. But we're going to finish it. Okay, that's tight. Oh. All right, let that blood flow again. Okay, so we're pretty well attached on this side. Look, there are 4 bolt holes. We put in 3 of them and tightened 3 of them. That's probably enough. Actually, you could probably just do the first and the front and the back hole, and that's probably enough. You want to keep tabs on it to make sure things aren't loosening up. If you got some extra time, go ahead and throw the 4th bolt in. No big deal. Let's get the other side going now. All right, we got to get a nut started on the front here. All right, that's pretty good. Let's see, I can also move the robot over a little bit, get myself some more space. All right, and then all right, that one's tight. Let's see, next might be the back one, which is, I feel like, you know what? On this one, I bet you the handle, nope, it's still on a little bit of an angle. I might be able to use that enough, though, to get the nut started. Huh. It barely turned, but the nut did grab, so cool. All right, and then looks like I have to be on this side of the roller. And then let's go ahead and get the wrench on there. And then let's drop everything and try again. Again, definitely recommend use a second person who can focus on just getting this Allen wrench in from whatever weird angle you're going to have to use. And a second person to hold the wrench on the side. All right, that is, I'll try one more time. All right, now we're making progress. And tight. All right. And I guess to match, we'll try to get one more in. Let's aim for that second hole there. And I think I'm definitely going to have to use that trick of push that out so it's not in the way. And I'll slide the nut in until it is lined up with the hole. Drop the bolt a couple times. But there we go. It started. And now, let's see. Again, we were able to get the ratchet on that on the other side, right? So we should be able to do that again. And it seemed like reaching down from the top for me is working the best, but find whatever access point works well for you. It's going. That is tight. All right. Whew. That is connected now. We can do a quick check here. So we got this on. It's sturdy. Still clearing in the back. It didn't really move at all, the floor, because obviously once the floor was bolted in, it wasn't going to move much. And now we can see kind of how the front is looking. I'm on 3 wheels right now, but I think that's okay. The key part is we are getting contact with the ball, and it is pulling it towards the middle. Now, there is a little bit of a dead zone here. That was the case on the actual KitBot as well. But when these wheels are spinning super fast, I think it's going to work, and it's going to grab and feed the ball in. So that is working pretty good. Obviously, you might need to adjust your dead zone noodle. Right now, the dead zone noodle is pushing down a lot. But again, it's hard to tell, right? Because me spinning this at half a rotation per second versus when we run it with power and it's going at hundreds of rotations per second, it's not going to behave the same way. But basically, if you put the ball in and it gets grabbed by one of these wheels, like if it sits on one of those wheels, then you've got your stuff mounted at the right height. If you put this in and it's not close to the ball, you got to drop it down a row of holes. If you put it in and the ball is like here on it, again, then you got to raise it up 1 row of holes. But that looks good to me. All right, we have one more problem that I want to talk about before we move on to our the rest of our hopper. And you may or may not have this problem, right? So let's rotate this kind of back straight. We want to look on both sides. We'll look on this side first. And actually, that was probably not right. OK. All right. And the one thing is, this is super tight tolerance. We knew this was the case when we put it together. And you can see part of it, too, is like depends on where your stuff is sitting, where that roller can shift a little bit on those bearings. And if it's in, and I spin this around, does the big part. There's this big part here that sticks out a little more. Like the question is that rubbing on the motor? And for me right now, it's not. If I shift this over, though, is it going to rub on the motor? And the answer is yes. So you can sort of see it as it goes by there. You can sort of see the plate flexing out of the way. That is it getting pushed out of the way. Now, you got a couple options here. One, this is plastic. This is metal. It probably wears itself away over time, and you don't have to worry about it. Another thing you can do is if you have that ability where this is sliding in and out a lot on you, you might be able to just shrink the size of your spacers in the middle to clamp everything down closer and tighter. But I think the safest solution is there exists a bunch of different style shaft collars that we can use. Now the question is, I don't know if I'm going to be able to take this out easily, but if we take off the shaft collar that's there, and I think the only way I'm going to be able to take this out is by sliding it out on the other side as well. There we go. It's a little bit anyway. Oh no, and I can't slide it out on the other side because it's hitting there. Hold on, time out. If I pop the bottom one out as well, let me loosen the bottom one as well. I think we might be able to get to it. Now, if yours, like you spinning, it's clear, it doesn't look like it's hitting, then you do not need to worry about anything. Don't worry about this step. You're just in good shape, and it's all good for you. I think if I can get the bearing to pop out, then maybe we can do something here. Let me look at the other side too. OK, yeah. I'm going to loosen the shaft collar on the other side. Just loosen that one up as well. And basically what we got to do is we got to push the whole shaft through. Which maybe is easier said than done. It's getting close. Let me see, if I pull this one out, I think I need to push it in on this side to make up for it. Let me loosen the shaft collar more. Maybe I didn't loosen that quite enough. Okay. All right, so I think the way, okay. I think I got it now. Unfortunately, the way we have to do this is we're going to have to slide all of the stuff over one at a time, because that's what's stopping me from being able to push more. I just can't push hard enough to move all of the pieces. So we'll do it again. Yeah, there we go. And now I can take that shaft collar off. That was not the worst once I realized you had to move the wheels. Okay, and then there exists, this isn't the only type, but there are some thinner, smaller shaft collars that'll fit on hex. So these are available at all kinds of different vendors. I think every FRC vendor has these, or some version of it that's going to be a little bit smaller than this big one. And now that, you can see it's so much smaller that even if we're over next to the motor, it's not going to rub. So now we got to slowly slide everything back over. So we're going to do the opposite of the process. Push, pull the wheels over. Push on the shaft, pull the wheels over. Do it again. And now I can get this side off. Because if you have the problem on one side, you're probably going to have the problem on the other side. I can, I think, see some rubbing from where we were on this side as well. I don't know if that's from it, but in theory, the dimensioning is the same. So I'm going to grab a second tiny shaft collar for this side and get that on there and started. Now this still won't, you still have to do it now because you still won't be able to pass this through, right? Because the motor sticks out much more on this side. So we got to do just a little bit there. Push it back through. Slide the wheels back over. Man, even sliding two wheels at once is hard. I guess that's good, right? We kind of want them to keep their position, so. All right, and then just going to work on it to get those bearings back in. All right, and now let me go ahead and tighten those ones down so things don't shift. I tried to center the shaft a little bit. I might have succeeded. I might not have succeeded. This little one that I have here, you got to like really crank to get this one tight. So just keep that in mind if you get this particular one. I can't remember where we got this one from. This might have been Andy Mark. I don't know. I had a bunch of pieces lying around. So when I was starting to run into these problems and test stuff, that's what I grabbed. Oh, you could maybe, actually, depending on how much the shaft is sticking out, be able to do stuff. This one, the set screw fell out of. Luckily, I have a spare. And I'm just going to take the little screw out of this one and tighten it into this one. Okay, and just like when we assembled it the first time, make sure you're pushing in, holding it in tight. Essentially, you want to be squeezing the shaft together so it has the least possible play. And again, I think my spacers are a little long. You might have lucked out if your spacers are a little shorter than mine and had everything that clears no problem. Okay, now this bottom one I shoved out to try to get a little bit more room on the top one because of the belt. So let's shove that one back in. And then I don't think I loosened this side, but we'll check and make sure that's tight. And then this side, definitely I loosened. All right, so now if we go back in the corner where we had the scary part before, and we look down, check our clearance now that we've swapped to the tiny, skinnier spacer. And that is not, I mean, it's still close, don't get me wrong, but that is not scary. And even if I slide this over as far as I can get it to slide, nothing's hitting. Slide it back the other way, nothing's hitting. You can just trust me, the other side looks exactly the same when you slide it out and in, all right? And that was one of the big issues. Again, I think a lot of that is because my shaft has that play. So you just got to watch out for that. If yours, I think my spacer is printed a little bit too tall. If yours it squeezes in nicely. That's going to work. You can also try disassembling it and squeezing those things in as you go. All right, so this is all together now. It's looking good. It's moving. It's clearing. And that was one of the issues with this whole thing is we had to shift this in front of this motor in order to, right, because if we move any farther back, that motor shaft is also going to hit. And then we can cut the motor shaft, but if we move farther back, even with the smaller spacer, eventually that's going to hit. So that's why we have this extra section in the front that we built on, which I said, we need that to keep this inside our frame perimeter, our perimeter of our robot, and that is also going to give us a good place to attach our bumpers. All right, now we've troubleshot that problem. Let's go and spin the robot around, and let's get the rest of this hopper assembled. All right, so if you remember correctly, there were the two side pieces and the back piece that we cut out the other day. Let's bring those in here. All right, so our side pieces are SKB 26005. They're these sloped ones. They're going to sit this way, right along the side. And then we've got the back piece, which is going to go in here and connect it all together. So I'm going to go ahead and peel off the coatings on these. And grab, while I'm doing that, let's multitask. Let's grab some zip ties. I don't know which ones I'm going to want, but I think I want these ones. Let's do these ones because they're shorter, and we really don't need very long zip ties at all for this. And my multitasking involved me not peeling anything off when I walked over there, so I did not multitask at all. All right, let's get this one peeled. And this side. I guess this is kind of fun. It's like that new electronics when you peel off the screen cover thing. All right. So we can start with one of our diagonal ones. All we're trying to do is line up the holes. So we got a hole here and a hole here. We're going to line up those holes. And then we're just going to run a zip tie. Start on the outside of the robot with the zip tie. We don't want any of these zip ties to end with the bumps on the inside because that's where the balls go. And it probably won't affect anything, but it could. And we know on the outside is safe. So we're going to get this to the outside. And then this first one, we're going to get it kind of tight. And then I'm going to get a second one started. So go in from the outside and then back out. All right, and you want to try to kind of keep these so that the edges are touching. If you can keep the edges kind of lined up and touching like that, then you can try to tighten it down to hopefully lock it in place. And these should be more or less as tight as you can make them. We don't need any movement here. Wait, I lost the opening. How is that possible? Oh, it's in the middle. All right, and we keep going. There's another one down here. All right, make sure they stay edge to edge. One more. And you can see now when we were making all these plastic pieces and I was like, look, it's just zip ties. Like my holes don't line up down here. I don't know if that was the measurement or it was just me, but it doesn't matter because the zip tie is happy to just go on an angle. I can also shift it up. It'll sit a little higher, whatever happens, happens. That's fine. All right, now we're going to go, again, from the outside around these two here. So we're going to get the bottom and the outside here. Pull that one tight. Keep going. Next spot. Keep going. Pull that tight. And one more. All right. I think next we want to do the other side, the same way we did this side. So come up to the front side here. Again, through and back. And again, and again. All right, so we'll try to just do our best to keep it lined up. That's pretty good. Wait a minute. It doesn't matter whether you go through the plastic first or the metal first, but I did the plastic first on the other two, and I don't want the zip tie head to face the wrong way, or the different way. No, neither way is actually technically wrong. I just want them all to look the same. All right, pass the bottom one back through. All right, and now we've got our bottom connections. Again, like, you know, maybe the holes are a little bit off, maybe that angle is a little off. It doesn't really matter too much because the zip ties will connect it anyway. Last one there. All right, and now we are ready for the back panel. Okay, and the back panel, all you got to know is it's a U of holes. The extra holes go on the bottom to connect to the floor. And this, I think, generally is going to sit in between the side ones, which is probably what we want. If it's on the outside, I don't know, at some point, we're getting closer and closer to this thing. So if this is on the outside, I think I'm still just inside the frame perimeter, but by like a 1/16 of an inch. If it's on the inside, then it's still relatively comfortable and clear. So you can check yours. Again, if it's out by a tiny bit too, I think you get away with that, especially if it's just for like a fastener or something like that. So we'll get the top one started. Next one. Next one. Okay, I didn't make any of those super tight yet. I'm going to get the 4 started on the other side just to make sure it's hanging level. And then we'll be able to go back through. All right, I think I'm used to putting zip ties in my mouth, but I just realized if I put the zip ties in my mouth, I can't explain what I'm doing. So we'll have to use the table. I think for sure there is a perimeter rule about like the extra like minor things. Like if a zip tie head is sticking out, that's fine. That's not illegal. So you don't have to worry too much about where your zip ties end up here. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and make these all tight. Go back to the first side, and we'll make these ones all tight. Okay, and then we have the row across the back on the bottom to connect it to the floor of our ramp. Oh, I never tightened that one, or I did, and it, we'll see. Also, if they are a little loose, it probably is still fine, by the way. I mean, like, you know, as long as it keeps its shape, we're happy. All right, so we'll work our way across, always keeping the zip tie heads on the outside. And one more. All right, let's give this a try. We toss a ball in. I guess we have these wires in the way, but really, here's what we're looking for at this moment right now. The ball, wherever it goes, should roll down and get to the middle. Should kind of always be contacting one of these wheels in one way or another. And that looks good. We can also kind of check to see if the feed roller, which is this one, is able to grab the ball and pull it into the robot. Yep, that's going. And remember, it's going to be spinning super fast, so obviously it's going to be way more efficient than me. And then the rest of the fuel mechanism is completely unchanged. So in reality, what we did was, in the original KitBot, right, there's just two panels down here. One of them is hinged to flap up and down. We combined them together, and then the only other difference is everything got shrank by about that. I think it was 5/8 of an inch, about half an inch. Everything got shorter, and we can see we are, not counting the zip ties, I am about a 1/4 of an inch, 3/16 clear on the top of this, and a little bit more clear on the bottom. So that looks good. Yeah, I think we're ready to go with this. Let me snip off all of these zip ties ends. Okay, this robot is basically done. We've got all the mechanical stuff attached. Hopper's done, intake, ramp done, swerve drive done, chassis done. We got a couple small things to do. You might notice that I don't have my robot signal light or the robot radio attached yet. I think we might end up switching which side of the robot that's on. So you might need to snip your zip ties and redo it. We'll get to that when we wire up the last few things on the robot, which is that and the two motors here. We'll do that in the next video. But before we go from this one, we're going to give another special thanks to Argosy. First, Cross the Road Electronics, West Coast Products, Aramco, and Team 302, Lake Orion High School, for hosting our studio.